In this demonstration for BarTender Integration Software, we are going to create a new bartender label in Business Central. This is going to be a basic one table label. The next video in this series, we're going to do a more advanced multi-table label. So for now, we're going to click the magnifying glass at the top right of the page, and in the search box, we're going to type bartender labels. As we type, we get results populated, and from the results list, we can select bartender labels. You see we have none created yet, but before we create a label, let's take a look at the available events we can print labels from in Business Central. To do this, we're going to take a look at bartender label events. I have this page open in another tab already. Bartender label events is where you can view a list of all available pages in Business Central where the bartender integration can be utilized. And in the fact box, we can see what table will be needed to create this label. So you can see I've highlighted item ledger entry, because that's the page we're going to create a label for. And you can see in the fact box, the table ID is 32. That will be the table that we're going to use to create this label. So now that we have that information, we can go back to bartender labels and we can get started on creating our new label. So I'm going to select new. Our label code is going to be ILE for item ledger entries, and that will be our description as well. The layout file name has to match the label file name in the Bartender Designer software. For demonstration purposes, we're going to do ile.btw. .btw is the file extension that the Bartender Designer software uses. Has default number of copies. This field is going to be toggled on or off depending on if you have the set value as default number of labels option enabled for a field selected in the bartender label table section. We'll review this option when we select our fields, but for now, notice it's toggled off. And same thing for enabled, it's toggled off. When we're all set with this label, we'll be toggling it on to enable it. Okay, so now we can get started. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to select our table number, which we know is 32 from the bartender label events. And then we get to parent table number. This field is used to link related tables to the main table from which the labels will be printed. This creates the hierarchy necessary to link the correct records. We're only selecting one table for this label, so this does not matter, and we're not going to put anything in this field. We're going to leave it as 0. Then we have label per record. This box gets checked on the primary table record from which label data is being retrieved. This will typically be at the lowest level in the hierarchy for repeating records. We're not going to check this box until we have chosen all of our fields. So now that we have our table selected, I'm going to validate it by tabbing off the record. You can see the table name and table caption get populated. I'm going to go back and highlight the record, and now we're going to select our fields by clicking Manage and Fields. We're going to select 3 fields for this label. First one that we're going to select is field number 2 for item number. And here's where you can see set value as default number of labels. We're going to review that on the 3rd field we select. So we're going to tab, and now we're going to select lot number, which is 6501. And we're going to tab over, and now we're going to select quantity, which is field 12. For quantity, we want to set that value as the default number of labels. So if that item ledger entry record has a quantity of 6, when we go to print bartender labels from the item ledger entry page, the quantity of labels will be defaulted to 6. So let's check that off. Let's tab out to validate the record. So now we have our 3 fields selected. We have the set value as default number of labels selected for a field. We can hit back. Now you can see has default number of copies is toggled on. So we've selected our fields for item ledger entry. Now we can check off label per record. And now the label is done, we can also just enable it. The last thing we're going to do is export the layout file. And what this is going to do is going to give us a text file of the named data sources that we're going to need to create the integration in the Bartender Designer software. So let's export layout file. Let's open that file, and you can see it just lists all the fields selected, starting with the table name and then the field name. Now we'd be able to use this in the Bartender Designer software to start creating the label in that software. And that is it for creating a one table label Thank you for watching this demonstration for BarTender integration software. Please check out our other videos in the BarTender integration series, including the next one, which will be creating labels with multi-tables.